Hey everyone, welcome to the June edition of Jira Advanced Roadmaps. Today we're going to be covering releases. Sorry, today we're going to be covering dependencies, cross-team dependencies, and I'm going to show you how to connect and visualize all your work together. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's jump into it. All right, so here's the topic, cross-team dependencies for Jira Advanced Roadmaps. A couple friendly reminders before we get too far into it. This session is being recorded, so make sure you smash that subscribe button because it's going to be available on YouTube once we finish this recording. Slides are not available because, as y'all know me by now, I don't do a whole lot on the slides, and so there's not going to be a lot for you to look at. We're going to be inside of Jira. We're going to be inside the plans, and so make sure you follow along here. But the good thing is since it's recorded, you can go back in time a little bit and go at your own leisure and review the parts that might have gone over your head. Now, feel free to say hello in the chat. We already have Chad from Indy tuning in. So say hello if you're tuning in here for the first time. Just say hello. I'd love to always see who's in the chat. If you have any questions about anything that I cover, make sure you drop it in the chat as well. We do have somewhat of a dedicated Q&A session at the end. But if you have any questions at any point, again, take advantage of that chat. I am monitoring and watching that chat. And so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them there. And then stick around for this exclusive offer at the end. Now, a little bit about me in case it's the first time you are seeing me on camera. My name's Alex. The internet likes to call me Dr. Jira, and I help people with their Jira problems, hence the doctor. I have a ACP 120, ACP 520, ACP 620, and the 420 is the last one that I need to get, but it's going to come. I'm hoping to get it here before I have to go to Barcelona. Although I just found out that if you go to Barcelona, all the ACPs are free to take, and so, well, at least for me as a champion, so I'm thinking about taking it. Maybe, I don't know. There's so much going on at team that I would hate to waste 2 hours just trying to take a test. But I am working on that 420. Hey, Rebecca, nice to see you. Friendly face here. But yeah, I do have a couple of engineering degrees. I have a few YouTube channels now, and I just dropped the link tree in case you all need some one-on-one time or whatever have you. I also do have a membership opportunity here. So if you do want some more behind the scenes type of things, some more deeper, t- like thought-provoking type of videos, I do drop monthly videos to my members. And for the Summer of Atlassian, I'm dropping every video that I'm doing for the Summer of Atlassian, which is 100 videos in 100 days. You get them way before their scheduled date. And so if you want to get early access to the videos, or again, very exclusive videos, feel free to take advantage of that membership opportunity. There's a couple of different tiers for you all to take advantage of. What are we going to learn today, though? Today, we're going to be learning a couple of different things. They're all related to dependencies. We're going to be managing and viewing our dependencies and kind of understanding how to leverage Jira Advanced Roadmaps for dependency management, which is one of my favorite things to do. I think it's one of the best features of Jira, specifically within the plans. And so we're going to we're going to go over work sources, start and due dates, how to look at your group by, your dependency badges, the dependency view, and then what do you do with this information? And so we'll talk about negotiations. And so with that said, let's jump into the plans. But before we do, let me say hello to a few people. We got Christopher from Nashville. Hey, Christopher. We got Distinctive Jacqueline from North Carolina. We got Noreen from India. And we got Jason from St. Louis. Hey, I used to live in St. Louis, Jason. That's so cool. I still have a house in St. Louis that I need to do something with. Okay, so let's get to plans. Now, again, I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record here, folks, but plans is a premium only feature. And so if you're not on the premium version of Jira, you're going to have a less than ideal experience. And so just make sure that you are on the premium version or enterprise versions of Jira so that you can take advantage of this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a cross team dep demo, right? And this is where the magic happens. Hey, Peter from the UK, right? So in order for the cross team dependency to make sense, you want to bring in different teams. Okay, you don't just want to create a plan with one project, because if you do that, you'll be able to manage dependencies within your team, but you lose the visibility of the cross team, right? So you want to pull different Jira projects or spaces is what they're going to be called now. Breaking news, in case you haven't heard the news, Jira projects will not be Jira spaces. But you want to pull in different sources because this is where the plan's going to shine the best. And so we're going to keep things simple, and we're just going to bring in 2 different projects. And so I'm going to bring in this demo for project managers, and then I'm going to bring in this estimation Kanban one. And it used to be that Atlassian used to tell us how many work items were going to be pulled in. So now it's just a mystery. But do know that you have a limit of 5,000. And this is something for you to consider, because as you are going to be pulling in different resources, you want to make sure you stay well under that 5,000 cap, because if you don't, then you're going to be missing stuff and the plan's not going to be working for you. So how do you confirm how many work items you have? Well, that part's easier. It used to be easier, but again, Atlassian, yes. So Peter, yes, you did hear that correct. Jira projects are being renamed to Jira spaces. I personally would have preferred workspaces. I think spaces contaminates with Confluence spaces, but my prediction is that Jira and Confluence will merge in the future, and we're just going to have a single unified product where you can have boards and you can have tasks and you can have knowledge based documents and Loom videos, and it's just going to be all one dashboard, one view with all the Atlassian tools in that one place. And so that's my low key prediction that what I think will happen, and this is that first step why Atlassian renaming projects to spaces. But let me know in the chat or in the comments here, what do y'all think? What do you think of this new change? Peter, it sounds like you are happy, but anybody else, what do y'all think? Chat says that that would be helpful. I think that would be helpful as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is where Atlassian's going. I don't have any insider information, but that is my prediction. Right, again, let me know in the chat, what do y'all think about this whole new renaming of Jira projects to spaces? Okay, so now that we have our plan, how do we confirm how many work items we have in it? So click on the 3 dots here for your plan settings, and you're going to go to issue sources, and here it'll tell you how many are in there. Now, obviously, the more that you have, the better this is going to be, right? This is the plan is designed to really track intra-team dependencies, and so you want to have a good amount. You want to be able to see all the dependencies, right? You don't want to just see a subset of your dependencies. You want to see all your dependencies. And so keep that in mind. Now I'm trying to go back to my plan, and apparently Jira thinks that when I say go back to your plan, this is an interesting bug, right? So when I'm in my plan settings and I want to go back to the plan, it's taking me back all the way to the For You page. So Atlassian, you gotta fix this UI, man. I am hating this new UI. Why do you gotta do this to me? Okay. So, anyways, now we're back to our plan. And Atlassian, you gotta do better here. This is not good UX experience here. When your production is buggy. Okay. So I have found a total of 3 bugs in the new UIs between Jira and Confluence over the last month. This is crazy. I should not be finding any bugs in production, folks. This is not okay. Anyways, off of that soapbox, and let me know how many bugs you have found in the new UI. All right, so we have our plan, and we have again a bunch of a bunch of work that spans across different teams. And so what we're going to do, because this is not going to work out for me very well, right? I have this project issue type here, and I have these epics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of epics under this EK1, right? Oh, and now I know why it doesn't work, because I only have one specific project type. So I don't like that either. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually remove that EK1. This is not going to do us any good. And we're going to bring it in a different project, because that one just had too much baggage. All right, let's see if this UI works now. Oh, look at that. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so we have a bunch of epics. We have a couple of epics. We have a bunch of stories and a couple of tasks. And so now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a epic for this other project, right? And so this is an epic. All right. And this is critical, folks, because you're going to want to have, for whatever level you're going to want to track your dependencies at, I recommend at a minimum at the epic level, but keep in mind that you can track at any level. So you can track story to story. You can do an epic to a story. You can do an epic to a subtask. It doesn't matter. You can link any of these together, but I would recommend to keep things simple. You're at the same level. Because if you're not, then you're not going to be talking apples to oranges. Sorry, you're not going to be talking apples to apples, and you're going to be more on the apples and oranges, and it's just going to create all kinds of confusion. So my recommendation is when you're going to be doing this dependency tracking, be at the same work level. Because if you're not, like I said, even though you can, right, you can track an initiative down to the subtask and do 4 layers deep. It's not gonna make a whole lot of sense because a subtask inherently is very different than an initiative, and it's kind of weird to like block an initiative because of a subtask. But it makes more sense that you're blocking an initiative because of another initiative, or an epic because of another epic, and so keep that in mind. So what you want to do though, then is have make sure you have epics from different projects. Right now, this is okay. We can block each other. We can do dependencies within each other. So we're going to do a dependency between these two epics. But where you're going to get the most bang for your buck is when you do dependencies across different Jira projects, which in this case we have Proj 12 and this DP one. I'm going to click my save. I'm going to save my changes here while I answer a couple of questions. Um, Chat says, I feel that, Alex. Yeah, feeling the bugs in this new Jira, they're something else. Praveen says Confluence as spaces. So for Jira, they might name the same. They may be naming same convention for projects as spaces. Yes. So that was kind of the thought process, Praveen, right? So since Confluence has spaces, it makes sense, but it causes some confusion, I think, right? Because you're going to solve the problem that a lot of people were always confused with. What's a project, right? What is a Jira project? And you always confuse a Jira project with like a funded, budgeted, scheduled project. And so, yeah, we're gonna fix that problem. But now, if I'm your if I'm your Jira admin and you ask me, hey, Alex, can you change my space key? Because remember, they're not Jira keys anymore, right? There's space keys. Well, is it the space key in Confluence or is it the space key in Jira? I think they should have used workspace, right? I would not have gone with space just because now you're gonna cause confusion with the folks that are using Confluence. So not sure that I like that. The Margot here says, "Are you demoing an enterprise?" I'm following along with enterprise, but I don't have the three dots that you have. So Margot, I'm in the premium version of Jira, but the three dots here, if you don't have them, it could be for one or two reasons. One, you probably have the old UI. This is the new UI for the plans, and so check on the left hand side. You might have them on the left hand side where your plan is down here somewhere, the plan settings. So keep that in mind. And then two, if you really don't see them, then you might not be a plan admin. And so there is your Jira administrators, if they go to the gear and they go to products, they do have the ability. There's a plan section here under permissions. And as you can see here, that there's a plans administrator. And so you might not, your team or your company might have locked that up. So those are the two different reasons why you wouldn't be able to see those ellipses. Now, full funny story is that we're full circle. Like when plans first came out in the cloud, these ellipses is where you used to go to the plan settings, and then they moved it to the left, and now we're back to this ellipses. So yeah, so your mileage is going to vary there, Margot, based on your UI. Okay, so we now have a couple of epics, right? And this is where we're going to play with. Now, the next thing you want to know is that you don't want to be in this list view, because in this list view, we're not going to be able to visually see the dependencies. And so we want to switch over to timeline view, and that's going to give us the best view here. And so when we're in this timeline view, you're going to be able to see these bars. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. But what exactly are these bars? Well, couple of disclaimers, couple of things you need to know. Number one, the bar is dictated by the start and the due date. Okay. They call it an end date, but I'm going to show you a setting here in a second. But you need two date fields. It has got to be the start, some sort of a start, and some sort of an end. Okay. And they're date fields. Now, the beauty is a couple things you got to know when you go to plan settings. Under dates, you get to choose which date fields create the bars for you. So start date and due date, which are the two that I recommend because those are the two out of the box ones. If those are okay, if those are enough for you, then I would leave it alone. I would leave the start date and the due date. Those are going to be the two dates that control those bars. However, again, any date field will work. And so you can change it to a target. So if you want to do, if you want to do target end and target start, but now you've changed the meaning of it, right? So just keep that in mind that when you're looking from plan to plan, that you're correctly articulating what this data is. And so I would personally leave it start and due date. But again, maybe you have like a launch date, maybe you have a go live date, right? You can use that if you wanted to as well. Now that's one. Rule number two, these dates, the start date and due date field, they do not need to be in the screen of your work item for you to see them in the plan. It helps and it's a benefit, but they don't need to be in the screen. So you don't have to have those two fields in your actual, like if I open up this Epic, you don't have to have the start date and the due date visible here. As you can see, I have the due date, but I don't have the start date. Okay. And that's okay. So just keep that in mind that they don't have to be exactly the same. Obviously, it helps because guess what? I have July 13th, right? So if I go to my plan, you can see that this is July 13th. However, if I change it here, right, if I push it out to July 18th and I click on some white space, over here in the plan, after a quick refresh, the dates are going to be extended out. See, now I went to July 18th. So it's very important for you to consider that if you're in Jira, any date, any changes you make to the Jira fields, like the date fields, they'll automatically be reflected in Jira. However, if I push this out August 8th and I go back to that Epic and I refresh, it's still going to be July 18th, right? You see how the due date is still different? And that is because I have to save my changes, hit save changes here, and then when I hit refresh, the dates will be updated. So now it says August 8th. So keep that in mind that depending on which view or how what you feel more comfortable with, it might be easier for you to be in the Epic itself or in the issue type itself and setting those start dates, right? And then you can visualize them on the timeline. Or if it's easier for you to do this in the timeline, then do it in the timeline because I'm a more visual user. But again, it just really depends on who you are and what you do and how you work best. So you have options. So pick the one that you like the most. All right. Angie says we use one Jira project and Jira initiatives to parse our charter work. Can we do dependency plans using options along with Epic? So yes. So I mentioned this at the beginning, right? So as long as you have a start and date on due date, right? So this is the next step that I haven't mentioned, but very critical. As long as you have the start and due date, right, you're going to be able to put start and due dates on anything. So notice that I have stories here. And so you can do it on a story. I can expand these. I can put dates on these particular stories here, right? I can go down to a task level and put it at a task level. And if you had a subtask, let's just go add a subtask here real quick, right? But if I were to create some sort of a, oops, I guess I don't have a subtask. It's called operational. Test subtask. As long as it's nested. Is it nested? No, it's not nested. Okay, never mind. I don't have a nested one here. So let's try this one over here. Nope, I can create a story. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's change. Let's make sure your filters go all the way correctly. You want to make sure you're doing the right hierarchy here. Now let's try it. So if I create a subtask here, yep, there we go. If I create a subtask, oops. This thing is just not cooperating with me. If you were to create a new subtask, you can put dates on the subtask as well, right? And as long as you have start and due dates, right? A start date and a due date, you can connect them. So I can take, it's going to be hard to see, but I could take this story and connect it to this subtask, right? I can take this, let me break this this chain here. There we go. It's kind of hard once you already have one. There we go. So if you take that one, I can connect it to a subtask. And so you can connect them however you want and be dependent within each other. You're just not going to get the same value, right? Because yeah, internally you're going to know your dependencies. Awesome. But where the plan works or shines the best is when you're dependent against different teams, right? The different teams is the really critical part. But again, this is going to work however you want. But you really want to see, hey, I have team A and I have team B, and they need to work together because that's reality. That's more what we have. Angie says our hierarchy is projects, initiatives, epic, stories, bugs, and action items. Yeah, so this will work, however, to whatever thing you want, as long as you have dates. You need to have a start date and a due date on everything in order to visualize this, right? You need to draw these lines across. Doesn't matter the issue type, you just need to have the lines. Okay. Now, the next thing, right? So next thing for you to consider is once you draw your lines, right? Once you have your bars, now you connect them, and you've been seeing me connect these things. And so you hover over a particular bar, and you drag and drop, and now you can connect two or more different items, right? And so what's powerful here, what the reason we have this here is because now we can connect, and we're establishing a relationship. And I'm going to hit save changes here so you can see what these are, right? But essentially inside of Jira, I'm going to open up my Jira item here. I'm going to do a quick refresh once this gets published. Okay, there it is. So I'm going to refresh inside this Jira. I'm inside my Epic. Notice that below my child issues, below I have my linked issues. And notice that I now have my blocked conditions. And so everything we've been doing right now, all that attaching, all those connecting lines that are all red, we are just simply adding a blocks relationship to those work items. Now, you cannot change that. You can't do, because when you add a link here, if I were to add a link at the Jira level, I can pick from different relationship styles, right? Relates to, causes, reviews, implements. That's not possible with the plans. When you drag and drop that line, when you drag these lines together, you are explicitly only making a blocks and blocks by. And so one's going to be blocked, the other one's going to be blocked by. It does it automatically for you. There's nothing you need to do or configure there. So just keep that in mind, that that's a pretty hard limit, that you cannot choose the other types of relationships. All right, Justina says, and also, why are you a different color? Are you a member, Justina? I think you might be a member. Are you a member, Justina? Let me know if you're a member. Software for devs, JSM for PMs, plus me as an agent. Other teams use JSM for requests. Can agents see Jira software in plans read only without Jira software license? Okay, great question. Can agents see Jira software dependencies in plans read only without a Jira software license? So the short answer is no, because if you don't have a license to the tool, then you won't be able to see it. However, there's some saving grace here. From Jira software, because Jira software is a cheaper license, you would want to have as many people with your Jira software license as possible, because that's the cheaper, that's the most common license. From a Jira software person, they can see a JSM project because there's now a stakeholder license that allows you to have visibility. So from Jira software, you can get a free JSM license called stakeholder, but from JSM, there's no free Jira software license, so you can't go the other way. So you would want to figure out, how do I go the way that's free, because going the other way is going to cost you money. And so based on what you're telling me and the way I'm reading this, you're gonna have to pay. But if you went the other way around, where you had a JSM thing that you wanted your licensed Jira software to see, then you could do it for free. I don't know why Atlassian does this. I would suspect that in due time, Atlassian might introduce a read-only license for Jira software, but right now we don't have that, and so everybody's got to pay to play to see the work. And so if you don't have the license, and if you don't even if you have a license, if you don't have access to the project, then you don't see the work in the plans. So keep that in mind. And Justina, thank you so much for being a member. Can you change the default link type when you're drawing? No. So it's blocks and blocks by. That's what you get. There's nothing else. Technically, it picks the alphabetical linkage. I tested this a few months ago, removing blocks. It picks up. Okay, that's interesting. So Peter, thanks for that. Yeah, I had not even thought about deleting that, but I don't know that it's necessarily true for me, because I have action item here, but I'd be curious if it's deleting it from over here. I'll have to test that. I don't think that this is true though, because as you can see here with my issue linking, let's see, I assume I have one with the A. Yeah, see, so I have an A action item, and it's still, we just created them and it's picking blocks. So I don't know that this is true. We can definitely test that out in a future video. But for now, I'm going to stick with my guns and say that it's blocks, because Atlassian picked blocks. But I will test that. I'm going to go take that one offline, because as you can see, I do have an item above the blocks, and it's not defaulting to action item. Based on that logic, it should have gone to that one. But we will test it for a future video. Okay, so now that we have our lines, right? This will only be possible if you have your start and due dates. If you don't have start and due dates, you can still, within Jira, right? If you open up the Epic, you can always add the linked issue, and you can always add the blocks and blocks by yourself. Now that's going to create the relationships in Jira, but you're not going to be able to visually see them in the plan unless you put those dates. So keep that in mind. you have to put start and due dates, right? Now, these lines could get a little bit overwhelming. If they're too much for you, that's okay. If you go to this slider over here, these are your view settings, and you can change your dependency style. So if you don't like to see the lines, which I actually like the lines, I like the chaos. Um, you can click on badges, and then you can click on the show number of dependencies, and you will see visually how many dependencies you have without overwhelming you with all those crazy lines going everywhere, right? And so just know that you have a couple of options, but I like the chaos, I like the lines, and I like them just yelling at me and telling me everything's bad, the world's on fire. Maybe just I'm call the drama in me, but I like a good fire. Okay. So what do the red lines represent though? Why do we have red lines? And so the red lines are telling us something very, very specific. They're basically telling us here, and I don't know if it tells me. Yeah, there we go. There's an overlap, and that's why they're red, right? And so we have this little warning that basically says, hey, the end date of the item that's blocking you is 12 days ahead of the start date of the item you need to start that you're being blocked by, right? And so you Jira doesn't like that, right? And so to fix your lines, and I'm going to skip to the end of my presentation here, because now what you need to do is you need to negotiate with your project manager, your product manager, your stakeholders, your CTO, CEO, CIO, whoever you're negotiating with, whoever's giving you these dates. You now have some leverage and you have some negotiation tactics, because now you can say, hey, um, well, we need to make our lines green, right? We need to have a safe path to complete this. A realistic path is, I think, the right word here. And anytime you have red lines, and that is you're creating unrealistic paths. And so Jira's going to have a conflict with those dates. And so you need to move your dates around. You need to negotiate these dates. As you can see here, I have dependencies within dependencies, right? And so you need to move dates around until your dates are no longer, or until your lines are no longer red. And that's going to enable us to be able to, again, negotiate and manage expectations. This is very key. This is how you manage realistic expectations, because until you put the dates, until you connect things, everybody's just kind of like chapping. I was going to say yapping and chatting at the same time. Everybody's chatting and yapping away, and everybody's just like, it's very overwhelming, right? It's very, very overwhelming there. But this is something you need to do, but you come in with facts and data. Because once you connect things, once you put those start dates and due dates in, once you connect those dependencies in your plan, now you can go back to the negotiating table and go, look, here's the plan, here's the reality. If we go down this path, we have a significant amount of overlaps that's not going to be healthy for us, right? We're going to have problems. So if your plan looks something like this, you're going to have some problems, right? Because things are not going to be completed and other things are going to start, and you're just not going to have the right trade or handoff to make this successful. Alex says, hey, I know why you only see blocks and block slides. If you go to plans, plan settings, dependencies, you'll see what has been configured to show. Let's see that. So let's go to plans, plan settings, um, dependencies down here. You'll see what has been configured to show scheduling dependency and plans. I don't know. I don't see your options. This I know is for the auto scheduling stuff, but I don't. Am I missing something? I don't see plan settings. I don't see a dependency section. Yep. No, I don't. This is not it. And I don't see a dedicated dependencies view over here. So, I do know that if you go to this dependencies, which is what we're going to talk about next, we have the issue link type. But I might want to talk to someone from Atlassian to see if they know something. But anyways, Alec, thank you for that transition. Go to plans. Oh, well, you said plans, go to plan settings, right? Okay, so if you go to dependencies here, then settings. Okay, there's a settings here. Which settings? The settings? Not that settings. Help me find the settings button. I don't see a settings button. Plans is on your left-hand side. Okay. 3 dots. These 3 dots? These 3 dots. I feel like I'm so lost. Alex, action has not been configured to be available in plans. Configure that first and see what happens. Okay. In their product settings. Okay. All right. Hold on, folks. We go to products. And we're gonna here we go. Dependencies here. Look at that. Look at that, folks. You can add this. All right, this is nice. So this is how we add more. Cool. Well, this is great. Relates to. So you can hit your save your changes. Now, unfortunately though, this is a Jira admin only thing. Okay. This is a Jira admin only thing. So you want to make sure that if you're going to go down this route, um, you are working with your Jira admin. Now I'm going to delete them for now. I'm just going to reset them here. No, never mind. I'm going to remove them for now because I want to not mess up my demonstration because I've already done that where I changed my settings in production during a talk and bad things happen. So we're going to still table this one for now, but thank you Gareth and Alik for pointing this out, and Peter for pointing these out. These are really really cool. The restriction for our project managers that dependencies is finish to start, whereas they want finish to finish option two. Thoughts on a workaround? So that's been very troubling for me too, Peter. I haven't seen anything in Jira that does that the traditional, finish to finish or any of that yet. If I were to be a PM at Atlassian, this is something that I would be working on because this is a very requested feature. So nothing that I've seen, I can't think of any good workaround either, mainly because I don't spend a whole lot of time in that traditional project management world. And I have a hard time remembering what finish to finish meant. But you kind of just have to play with your dates and your lines and make them kind of look like what you would expect would be the only tips that I can give you. Okay, you can add action back into your plans. Action should override blocks as the default. Okay, so let's again. We'll play with. I'm gonna play with this offline, and maybe do a dedicated video for that. But right now, let's just continue down the path that I'm on. Okay, so let's go back to our timeline view here, and we have our dependencies, and we have everything visible here, right? And so the next thing I kind of want to show you is that dependencies view, right? And so when you do connect everything together, you can actually zoom in and out of this, and this allows you to have a good, decent bird's eye view of those dependencies. And so we have a couple of different options here where you can roll up to your initiative, roll up to your project, right? So you have some roll ups, assuming you do things at the right level. But as you can see here, I can roll up to my epic and I can have this particular story that somehow is linked, right? Because we linked it for some reason. But that's kind of cool. So you have some roll ups there, so you can just see very specific items. You can do a group by. So if you wanted to group them by specific epics, this is one feature, right? So if you wanted to look at a feature to feature perspective, you can do that, right? Because you can group how these dependencies ultimately are impacted. So that's really neat. You can also group it at a project to project level. So if you wanted to see the dependencies between one project and the other, this is super valuable. This just gives you so much context so you can help negotiate again your dependencies. Now, if you're using team, you can negotiate or group them by team. And then if you're looking at sprints, you can see, hey, sprint A is happening first, and then sprint B. And if you have work that's in reverse, then that's when you know you have a bigger problem. And so cool views to visualize this information. Again, you can only look at the ones in a specific project. You can look at the ones in a specific sprint, or you can look at a specific issue. Or if we add more types of links, then you can look at a specific link. Now, this again is probably my favorite view out of all of them, though, right? Because this shows you that order of operations, right? This is telling me if I have to go figure out a plan, right? If I'm a project manager and we got to figure out PEMDAS, if you guys remember order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? If we have to remember that PEMDAS, that order of operations, then this is going to tell that any story that's underneath this epic should happen before anything else. Because if it doesn't, if this epic doesn't get completed, we are blocking three things. And so a combination of this epic and this story, they need to happen first. And so if you were to be planning your sprints, this is going to tell you this needs to go into sprint one. This would be the next sprint, and then followed by the third sprint. And that is important. It's important data and context to have so that when you are at the negotiation table with your PMs, with your product managers, again, your stakeholders, and everybody's kind of again talking and really yelling about what needs to happen first and what needs to happen next. This is a very easy visual way to manage expectations, right? This is the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway is this dependency, this cross-team dependency view helps you manage expectations. Because until you have it in a picture like this, right? Until you can visually see how these items are intertwined and how they're interrelated, then you don't appreciate that order of operations, right? It's very easy for somebody to just be yelling at the top of their lungs saying DBP9 needs to be done. And they're like, well, no, it doesn't. Because if we were to reverse this, right? If DP, whoops, I can't even move it here, but if DBP9 were to happen first, then we're out of sync, right? We're out of order. There's dependencies, there's things that have to happen first in order for that DBP9 to then happen. And so this view is something that I love to see. It's one of my favorite ones, and I highly recommend that you go through the exercises to map your epics and your stories and everything together so that you can appropriately and visually see that order of operations, right? Because that is the game changer. That is what's going to unlock you from being frustrated as a project manager to having a little bit of a, I don't want to say respect, but you're definitely going to have facts and data, right? And it's really, really hard to argue with facts and data because this is the picture. This shows you based on our current understanding, based on what we've heard, based on everybody's input, here's the plan. Is this the right plan? Right? Hence why we're doing this in plans, right? And so go ahead and manage that information here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty much it. That's really what I wanted to show you, right? Because when you do this, it's gonna unlock a whole new level of negotiations, right? And it all starts um, with these start and due dates, right? And again, make sure you're putting start and due dates. And I would feel more comfortable if you put start and due dates at the epic level because your stories technically should inherit the start and due dates from the sprint. And so it's usually a little bit harder to negotiate those. But at the epic, you can definitely negotiate start and end dates. And so I recommend that if you're going to do this and you're doing this for the first time, start off at the epic level. It's going to be a little bit easier. It's going to be easier to put it in to populate because you don't have to worry about having the conversation of like, well, that's not agile. Well, I would say as a project manager, sorry, the product, I'm now merging project management and project manager together. As a project manager, um, agile is not always the right answer, right? Agile works great at the story level, but you need to still have a plan. You still need to have a bigger view of what's coming. And I sometimes feel like Scrum or just just Scrum in general or Agile in general, like it's too zoomed in, and the plan gives you a good 30,000 foot view. But this is very important. Okay. Peter says our challenge is how to filter out small intra-team dependencies and report just on cross-team dependencies. I don't see a way of doing this within Jira. Yeah, so my 2 cents would be leverage the team field if you're not already, right? Because then when you bring in your team field, you can then group by team, and then you already saw I don't have it set up right, but you can see that you can group it by team over here as well, and so it'll kind of filter out that smaller stuff because you just see the team stuff, right? And so definitely leverage the team field. If you don't use the teams field, I recommend you use team so that you can manage them. Now, if you don't want to create a global team, if you don't want to create a team that exists across like Confluence and Jira and some of the other Atlassian tools, you do have the ability to create these teams that are in the plan only. And so if you wanted to create like team awesome, you can create them in here. But when you create a couple of teams inside of here, inside your plan, they do not exist. They do not exist outside of your plan. Awesome. Okay. But now when you come back over here and let me do my group by not being team, right? But if I add my team field, oh, that's one last thing that I should show you. You can always add fields in this view as well. You're not stuck with just status. You can add any of the custom fields that you have. So I would bring in your start date and I would bring in your due date. While I'm here, you're going to notice that there's a D here. And this D is the one that's going to indicate that this is the date that is driving the bar. If you don't have the D next to it, then you can't have any other date field. So for example, If I bring in my target start and my target end, notice that they don't have a D next to them. And that's because in my plan settings that we covered at the beginning, these are not the two date fields that are going to drive those bars. But you can and are allowed to have a lot of dates in your plan here, right? So I can put my actual start and I can have my target start, right? I can put my actual due date and I can have a target due date. And so it's possible for you to say targets, right? Wishful thinking, but then actually have your actuals as well. And so keep that in mind. Once you have your teams, right, now you can start kind of assigning things to different teams and kind of checking your cross team dependencies there, right? So if I go back this way, oops, I should probably publish these changes as well. There we go. So as you go this way, you can see that these are the items that are dependent on each team. And so this might be something to at least start going down this rabbit hole, Peter, to see if this helps you out. All right. Any other questions on how to use the timeline? While those questions come in, just want to remind you folks, we are halfway through the year. So we are officially 6 lessons in. Next month, we're going to cover program planning. So if you're a safe organization, make sure you come back for that one. That one's going to be a fun one. But we're halfway through the year. I would recommend or highly encourage you all to make sure you sign up for my other classes, especially if this is the first time that you're here. As you can see, I have a lot of other classes. We have like 24 left for the rest of the year. I think I've signed up for 48 for the entire year. So we have 24 more to go. And boy, am I happy to see the light at the end of that tunnel. I don't know that I remember signing up for 48 classes ever again. That was a lot. And so make sure you take advantage of that. Also, I am pretty active on Udemy, and every day, if and when I get time, I work on new Udemy courses. And so these are the two that I have right now. So feel free to check them out. They have some discounts for you all as well. And so check them all out. And as I mentioned at the beginning, and as we saw earlier today, we do have a guest of honor. We have Justina here, who is our member. So if you want to join the membership program, make sure you join that membership and help support the channel. And I think that's it. That's all I'm going to leave you with. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. I always love to, just hang out with you all on LinkedIn, and that way you can know what's going on. And I'm always posting things. And Justina, again, thank you so much for being our guest of honor here, and being a proud member of Ape Tech here. So thank you again, Justina, for that. But yeah, so if you guys just want to send me a LinkedIn request, feel free to send me a LinkedIn request, and we can connect, and check out just all the stuff that's going on. I have a lot of things going on usually, and so if you're ever bored, definitely check them all out. But with that said, I'm going to leave you here. I think I covered everything I needed to cover. Negotiations, dependencies, work sources. Yep, I got it all. So I'll give you all 15 minutes back, maybe a good bathroom break, and we'll see y'all next month when we go over program planning. Thank you again, Justina. Thank you so much. And for everybody else, go become a member. Bye, everyone.